I don't work late night shifts anymore. This happened last year, in December. I took a job in a local department store. Generally, I was assigned to do the evening shifts, but that day I decided to cover for another worker who was on leave. Who can say no to extra cash? The store was located in the outskirts, mainly for people driving by the highway. There was a petrol pump 3 blocks away, and that's the only residence close to this store. I drove to work in my car and never had any issues working there. But being my first graveyard shift, I was quite nervous. I carried pepper spray in my pocket just in case. Apart from that, I had no other weapon with me, as I never expected something like this would happen. It was a Tuesday night, and I was sitting behind the counter watching videos on my phone when I heard a rustling sound. The department store is made of glass, so you can see the outside quite clearly. I looked around, but except for the vast fields and empty highway, I saw nothing. It was 1:30 in the morning, and I braced myself, saying a couple of more hours and then I'll be going home. A minute went by when that rustling sound took place again. I grabbed a flashlight and went out of the store. Is anyone out here? Hello?
Ah!
Hearing this spine-chilling scream out of nowhere, I dropped my flashlight in a panic and ran toward the store. I could hear footsteps running behind me but didn't have the guts to turn around. As soon as I got inside the door, I slammed the glass door and locked it right away. My heart was beating like a drum. I kept staring outside, hoping to see the person who chased me, but shockingly, there was still no one to be seen. I wiped the sweat from my forehead and drank some water. I was finally settling down, thinking someone had played a disgusting prank on me when I heard a tapping sound. I slowly lifted my face and saw a freaky-looking man standing outside the glass with an expressionless face. He had long hair, dressed in his pajamas with no socks or shoes. It was a chilly winter night, and I was shocked to see him standing there in minimal clothing. He kept staring at me in a very creepy way. I was taken aback by this scenario and forgot to move. The man wasn't even blinking. His eyes were still, like a dead fish. After staring at me like this for a few seconds, that felt like an eternity, by the way, the man raised his bony finger and tapped on the glass. Tap, tap, tap. My knees started to tremble in fear, but somehow I got my shit together and said in a fumbling voice, What do you want? A dirty, ear-to-ear smile appeared on his face. He shushed me, putting his finger over his lips, and then started to walk in the weirdest way possible. He was tiptoeing in a very exaggerated way, pulling his knees up very high and grinning. He started counting as well.
1, 2, 3, turn. 1, 2, 3, turn. 1, 2, 3.
I watched him pull off this crazy charade. He was walking back and forth, raising his knees really high like a creepy cartoon character, while counting 1, 2, 3. I wanted to call the cops, but what would I complain about? Though this man was a nut job, he didn't try to break in or do anything harmful yet. So I walked behind the counter, sat down, keeping my calm, and just prayed to God to make him go away. After going on like this for 5 minutes straight, he stopped and smelled the air like a dog. Trust me, he was completely insane. He then pressed himself on the glass and spoke to me.
Come out and play with me, Isabel.
What? I am not Isabel. Are you all right?
Stop lying to me. Just come out and play.
I didn't know what to say. The man kept staring at me, probably waiting for me to come out. When he saw I wasn't moving an inch, his demeanor changed drastically. He started hitting the glass with his fists while screaming.
Don't you dare ignore me. Come out. Come out now.
Look, you're mistaken. I'm not Isabel.
You think you can lie to me? You have fooled me for a long time, but not anymore. I've watched you coming here for days. They thought I'll never find you. So wrong. They were so wrong.
I'm telling you for the last and final time, go away or I'll call the cops.
Come out, come out. Now, you have to play with me as we used to. Remember how you lifted your skirt when I asked you to, and let me play as long as I want? Let's do that again. Come out, come out.
His words drove me crazy. What the hell was he even saying? I couldn't hold back anymore. I dialed 911 and reported this man. The operator told me not to panic and wait for the cops to arrive. Meanwhile, the crazy man just stood there screaming and banging on the glass. When he realized I wasn't going to come out or let him in, he took a few steps back and spit on the glass while cursing me. He then licked his own spit from the glass. Go away, you jerk! Bloody psycho!
When you get home, I want you to call your mom and tell her that Jones is a free man now. She can't save her daughter again.
Saying this, he walked away and disappeared into the darkness. The cops came, and I couldn't help but burst into tears explaining what a horrible time it was. I told them everything about this guy, and after the cops escorted me home, I called my boss and took a week off. The next morning, I called my mom and told her about my encounter with this crazy guy. I expected her to be worried, but she kind of froze on the phone. Mom? Are you there? What did he call you, Susie? Isabel. Why do you ask? Listen to me very carefully. I'll be there in the evening. I want you to lock your doors and don't come out until you hear my voice. Just do as I say, I'll explain everything to you. My mom disconnected the call, and I was even more worried. Was the man telling the truth? Did he know me? Did he know my mom? I couldn't eat, sleep, do anything until my mom came over. She hugged me while whimpering like a kid. What she told me afterward changed my life forever. You're not supposed to remember this. It happened in the early years of your childhood. Every Sunday, you used to go to the city park with Grandma and play with the neighborhood kids. There used to be a balloon vendor who gave away free balloons to kids sometimes. You two became good friends, but soon we realized something wasn't right about this man. One day, you asked me for chocolates, and when I said no, you lifted your skirt and said if I gave you the chocolate, you'll let me play with you. Susie, we found out that the man molested you and many other kids too. He took them into the bushes, promising free balloons, and traumatized them for life. Your father and I immediately reported him, and he went to prison. We wanted to erase this memory from your mind, so we took you to a psychiatrist. Due to her therapy, this memory faded with time. I never thought that scum would be set free, and that he would have the guts to find you again. I've already talked to the chief, and he'll be behind bars soon. After hearing this, I couldn't speak for a while. My skin crawled, thinking the ugliest things he might have done to me, and now I don't even remember them. I was broken and confused at the same time. The cops eventually caught the guy, and a court hearing took place, questioning the authorities. Under what circumstances would they let someone like that walk the streets again? After getting out, this man came looking for me, and God knows for how many days he kept an eye on me waiting for an opportunity. But as I worked the day shift, he couldn't come near me. It makes me freeze in fear when I think how he recognized me after all these years. Now I work at a different place, but I don't think I'll ever be ready to work night shifts again. I hope that guy rots in jail and dies there too. I just hope that this time he stays behind bars for the rest of his pathetic, ugly life.
Hey guys, I hope you're enjoying the video. If so, please leave a like. And also, a small percentage of people that watch my videos are actually subscribed. If you want to support this channel and make this channel reach the 1 million mark, please consider subscribing. It's free and you can change your mind later. Enjoy.
This happened a few years ago, but I will never forget each detail of that cold night. I had just clocked in, 11:59 p.m., the graveyard shift. Call centers are not great. The pay is terrible, the hours are long and excruciating, and the clients treat you like trash. The only thing I liked about that place was my friends, David and Sophie. "Oh, about time you showed up, Al. Did you punch in late again? Bozeman is gonna have your balls." He joked, but I did have a problem with my tardiness. "No, actually I'm here early tonight. 11:59, I said. We both laughed. David liked giving people a hard time, but that's how you knew he cared about you. I looked at the end of the row. Sophie had already logged into her tools and was taking a call. She'd always get admonished for logging in early. Work was everything for her, even this crappy job. Yeah, she's been like that for 10 minutes. She showed up and logged in, didn't even say hello. I meant to tell her hair looked terrible tonight, but she wouldn't even give me that chance. Can you believe it? I chuckled and walked towards my station. It sat opposite Sophie's. When she saw me, she waved slightly, in an almost dismissive way. It wasn't like her to do something like that. I took my seat and started working on my tools. "Hey, what are you doing tonight, David?" "Sir?" I'd tease him, calling him sir. He hated it, but he was also technically our supervisor, although he didn't care. He knew, as I knew, this was just another bullshit job. But over the next 8 hours, I'd have to do it, and do it well. I was already on such thin ice with the company, always arriving late at the office. David remained quiet and then waved at Sophie, who was wrapping up her call.
Hey, what's wrong?
"Bro, it looks like you've seen a ghost. Are you okay?" Sophie and I approached his desk, and Sophie let out a shout. On his screen, there was a picture of a man sitting in a chair with a bag over his head. Behind him, a guy dressed in black, holding a gun to his head. This was on my email. It was marked as important. It has a video attachment. It wasn't a picture. It was a paused video. He pressed play, and the man in black stepped forward, weapon in hand, and shot the man sitting in the chair.
Oh my God, what the hell, David?
Sophie took a few steps back. We were all in shock. "Damn, who sent that, David?" I asked, but he kept staring at the monitor, almost in a state of trance. He clicked on the video again. It started from the beginning, and when the gunshot sounded, Sophie cried out, covering her ears. So I walked up to her and wrapped my arms around her shoulders. "It's okay, calm down, So-So." We all had these dumb nicknames for each other.
Why would you do that, David? Can you turn that off, please?
She was right. "David, man, quit it. Turn that stuff off. You're scaring Sophie." "David?" He was still very quiet, but when he turned and looked at me, his eyes were dark, wide open like plates and full of fear. "Albert, don't you recognize that room?" His voice was trembling. I took a look. It was a break room with tables, chairs, and a fridge. No, not just a break room. "Oh my God, is that our break room?" I began to shake as well.
No.
"It sure is. That's our damn break room." David suddenly stood up. "I'm gonna check it out."
Are you insane? Sit down, we need to stay together.
"She's right, David. Let's stick together. I'm gonna call 911, and we can all leave." "God, Albert, don't be an idiot. You know what that is? It's a joke. Someone is playing a trick on us. Now you can stay here like babies, or you can..." All lights went out, and we were surrounded by complete darkness. Everything was off. Our computers, the lights on the ceiling. We looked out the window, and many neighboring buildings were out of power as well.
Oh God, oh no.
Sophie was freaking out, so I grabbed her again and said, "Calm down. It's a power outage, okay? We've gone through these before." She kept freaking out, so I took out my phone and turned on the flashlight. It didn't do much, but it illuminated the place well enough. David did the same. That's when we heard the glass breaking. From the back of the office floor, near the break room, came the sound of breaking glass, as if someone had just broken a window with a heavy object. Sophie covered her mouth and dropped to the floor. I shone my light at her, and I saw her quivering behind a desk. "Grab her, let's go." At that moment, I flashed my light down the hall. It was very faint, and I could not illuminate the whole place, but in the distance, next to the break room door, I saw someone move. I looked at David, and he was standing next to the row of desks. His expression was horrible. His mouth was open, his eyes were wider than before. He looked at me and said, "Albert, why are you pointing the light at me? Are you..." We heard a gunshot, and before I knew it, Albert was grabbing his chest, falling backward, crashing against the desk. I looked again, and blood was falling between his fingers. When he tried to talk, he spat blood. Moments later, he was dead. I felt hands grab onto me. They were strong, probably a man's, and then a thick muscular arm was surrounding my neck. I couldn't breathe. The phone had fallen on the floor, the light pointing up at the ceiling, illuminating our desk row. Out of the corner of my eye, I could see Sophie cowering under the desk, sitting in a fetal position, arms around her legs, looking at me. She was terrified, but I need her to move and do something. So I extend my arm to her, pleading. It took her a second, but just as I was about to pass out, I saw her move. Suddenly, the arm that gripped me had let go. The man in black, the one from the video, was on the floor. grabbing his side. He was bleeding. "Oh, God, thank you," I said to Sophie, but she just took a step back. The man on the floor was bleeding from the side, and she had a knife in her hand.
I took this. He had it on his leg.
I looked. She was right. There was a sheath attached to the man's black boot. It was now empty, its knife in Sophie's hand. "You did good. Let's go," I yelled.
Oh, you two bastards better run.
The man was on his knees now, and with his hand, he was fumbling, trying to get something from inside his coat. I kicked him in the face as hard as I could, grabbed Sophie's hand, and we started running. As soon as we made it to the access hall, also in complete darkness, we saw a green light at the end of the hallway. It was the green exit sign. The emergency backup kept those lights on. We started running at the sign. We heard gunshots and more broken glass behind us. The stranger had begun to scream. The exit sign led to the emergency stairs. We took them and started going down. We were on the 6th floor, but we ran down as fast as we could. Above us, the door busted open and gunshots began to rage inside the staircase. Then, when we finally made it to the ground floor lobby, we thought we'd be safe. We opened the door to the street, and a dark, tall figure rushed from outside, tackling Sophie and bringing her to the ground.
No, please!
The impact of the door had pushed me back, and I fell, but I tried to run towards her. I saw the knife in his hand, high in the air, and then it came down. Sophie yelled and then made no more sounds. She was gone. The man turned around. He removed his hood. I couldn't recognize him.
Shame. I wanted to have a little fun first.
The man began rushing at me. It seemed he only had a knife. I began to run away into the freezing night. Behind me, I heard shots and the angry voices of the two men. I just kept running. I turned around the corner and saw a patrol car parked by the sidewalk. The police officer was drinking a coffee, sitting on the car's hood. He looked at me and must have assumed something was wrong.
Hey kid, can I help you?
"I work around the street. Someone broke into our building and they just killed my friends." I was shaking, but he took me into the car, made a few calls over the radio, and I was taken to the station. It's been a few years now. I've helped the police in their investigation however I could. No leads so far. I've been going to therapy, and I'm still having trouble processing everything that happened that night. I keep looking over my shoulder when I walk outside at night. I just hope that by telling this story to someone, I can begin to heal. All I know is that I miss my friends, and I hope one day I can get justice for them. It was busy Monday morning, the first day of the week, and I was running late. I work in an IT company where my job is to handle PR campaigns. In one word, I hate my job. But it pays well, so I'm going on with it anyway. I took an Uber to reach the office quicker. After dodging the busy traffic, when the Uber pulled in front of the huge building gate, all I could see were cops and paramedics. The red-blue light flashed the area like crazy, and the coarse sirens of cop cars were enough to deafen me. I checked the address to ensure the Uber had come to the right location, and to my surprise, it did. I got out of the car and walked up to the gate when a middle-aged cop rushed at me saying,
Sir, you can't go in.
"What do you mean I can't go in? I work here. What's going on?"
Look, there has been an accident. We can't let anybody go in until we recover the body.
"What? What body?"
Sir, please wait here.
The cop didn't answer me and went towards a group of cops who were standing, circling a stretcher at some distance. Being completely clueless, I called my assistant, Martha. She told me there had been a horrible accident. A woman jumped from the office roof, and while falling down, her toe got stuck in the fire exit stairs. Her head bashed into the iron stairs, and she hung like a slaughtered pig until the janitor found blood on the ground. He looked up, and there she was, hanging upside down from the 18th floor window. I stood there, stunned, and watched the paramedics take out a bloody, dead body towards the ambulance parked outside. I couldn't see the body, but I bet the poor woman bled a lot. The white sheet over the body was soaked in bloodstains from the other side. Finally, when I got the chance to go in, a horrifying realization daunted me. Did Martha say 18th floor? I immediately got into the elevator, and when it reached my office floor, I ran to my cabin. All the employees were standing in front of my cabin. As they saw me, their faces turned white. What the hell is going on here? My boss came straight to me and grabbed my arm, saying,
Ryan, you don't want to go in there.
What? Why not? I didn't listen and pushed him aside to see why everyone was standing outside my cabin with a freaked out face. As I walked in, I discovered the reason right away. My office is on the 18th floor, and I always felt a bit weird knowing that the fire exit is right next to my cabin window. I remember how my colleagues often joked that I'll be the first survivor if the floor caught fire. The window of my cabin is now shattered. Broken glass was everywhere. A piece of torn, bloody cloth was hanging from one corner of the window.
When she jumped, her toe got stuck here, and the wind kind of bashed her onto the window. The cops had to take her body from this window.
Oh my God!
You should take a day off. Also, it will take time to clean this place, and
I'll be fine. Did anyone find out anything about this woman?
not yet. No one from this building knows her. Seems like she just went to the roof and jumped.
2 police officers came and took all the evidence they could. Once the cops were gone, the office started to fall back into place. This is New York, and time is money here. Many employees came to me and said pretty much the same thing. Everyone kept talking about this death the entire day. I mean, the incident was unsettling, but life goes on, whether we are ready or not. I tried not to think about it, and once the work pressure kicked in, I forgot about it. It was about 7 p.m., and everyone was getting off. Due to the messed up situation in the morning, I could hardly work. So when my boss told me to go home, I decided to stay back and finish them. Some called me brave, and some called me stupid for working a night shift, but I ignored it. Slowly, the office space became emptier and quieter. One by one, all the employees went home. I was sitting at a small table near a window. The long corridor leading to my cabin stood on my left. I have been here night after night, but for the first time, the silence of this place felt eerie. I got up and went to my cabin. The wind was howling in from the broken window. I stood in front of it and lit up a cigarette. I looked down and saw something was stuck in the metallic base of the fire exit. I flashed my phone torch on it, and a cold feeling rushed down my spine. A broken toenail was still stuck there. Chunks of flesh were attached to it. I could still see the shiny red nail polish painted on it.
You shouldn't be so close to the window.
I turned back hearing this sudden advice and saw a woman in her late 30s standing outside my cabin. I couldn't see her face as she was keeping her head down. She was wearing a white shirt with a black pencil skirt like every other working woman. Sorry, do you work here?
I used to, before your boss fired me.
Oh, I haven't seen you before.
I'm Jolene. You weren't here when it happened. Why didn't you go home?
I just had a couple of things pending from work. But wait a minute. If you were fired, then how did you get inside? The door doesn't open without our employee ID swipe.
Well, I kept mine, in case I needed to come back.
This woman seemed pretty weird to me. Her voice was expressionless, and she kept her head down. She turned around and started walking down the corridor. I came in having lots of questions and concerns when I noticed she was limping in a very odd way. Are you all right? I asked her while walking behind her. She turned her partial face at me and smiled creepily. Excuse me, but what are you doing here at this hour? The boss isn't here.
You might want to take that call.
What call? Suddenly, my phone rang out loud, shocking the hell out of me. I took it out of my pocket and saw it was Martha, my assistant. Hey, what is it?
Ryan, I have shocking news. The cops took our boss into custody. It seems like the woman who committed suicide today used to work at our office a few years back. He fired her after his wife found out about their affair. Everyone is saying they still went on with it secretly until Mr. Smith broke it off with her 2 days back. I always knew this wasn't a good human being.
What? Did the cops find out her name?
Yeah, they said her name was Jolene, but
My phone fell from my hand. Martha kept talking from the other side, but I couldn't understand a single word. My eyes were stuck to the ground. The woman that I was following for a while is now standing barefooted, and I couldn't help but notice how shiny and red the toenail paint that was decorating her feet was. Except for one big toe. It had no nail, and the flesh was cut off, making it bleed. I slowly looked up, and for the first time, I saw her face. It wasn't human. Her nose was broken, and one eye was filled with blood. The other eye was bulging out of her eye socket, like she got hit by something hard on the face. I couldn't scream even if I wanted to. She then smiled at me, most disturbingly, and ran towards the window at the end of the corridor at full speed. Shattering the thick glass, her mutilated body fell from the 18th floor once again, but this time I heard her dying scream. I might have passed out in fear, and when I came back to my senses, I found myself lying on the empty office floor. The window through which I saw her jump out of was absolutely fine. It was as if nothing happened, and all of this was just a nightmare. I can't explain how I drove back home after that, but I don't think I will ever be able to stay that late at night at my office again. I have a feeling that she will keep coming back until it's all over.